I learned to embrace who I am now. I know I'm differently able. I remember my granddaughter said to me, she called me one day. This is so cute. She lives in Florida. And she says, Grandma, I just have a question for you. She's very proper speaking, Annabella. And she says, Grandma, she says, do you know exactly when you're going to grow your leg back? And I said, sweetie, my leg is never going to grow back.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and today I welcome Ana Reyes. The list of accomplishments for Ana is very impressive. From graduating with honors with a liberal arts degree in 2003 to being a school teacher for a period of 20 years. But a battle with cancer in 2017 led to other challenges, and we're going to get into that today with Ana. But first of all, Ana, I just wanted to thank you for your time to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's a great experience for me just to be able to chat with you.
Well, it's an honor for me to have you on because I know one of the things you've done is you've written a book, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But I always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd love the listeners to learn more about you, Ana.
hmm So I am 51 now, and I'm happily married to my husband, Mark. In the month of May, on May 5th, actually, Cinco de Mayo,
Cinco de Mayo.
it's going to be 35 years that he moved into my home and he does not want to leave. So we have two
Love it.
children. One is 34 and one is going to be 33 in April, Mark and Christy. I have six grandchildren. I have six of them. I have Elisha, Mark Anthony, Annabella Hope. I forget the name sometimes. Ava Lee, Clary Valentina, and Kyla Rain. I have six beautiful grandchildren.
Did you
And
say Elijah Noel too? I want to make sure you.
yeah,
Okay,
Elisha Noel. Yeah.
I got my notes here too. I wanted to make sure we got everyone listed. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. And I've been battling some health issues since 2017. I was enjoying my life, um, creating moments with my first grandchild, and my kids. They were already out of the house, and cancer knocked on my door. And when cancer knocked on my door, in 2017, after coming back from a mission trip in Cuba. We had an amazing time in Cuba, and we came back, and like a day or two later, I was getting ready to go to the Bible study, my weekly Bible study at church, and I'm trying to put my boots on, and I realized they don't go up. And I looked down. When I looked down, I saw a lump, a big mass, um, and I didn't think nothing of it because I really never, I never really thought that it was something serious or something bad. And I remember that my husband said to me, well, get checked because we did a lot of walking in Cuba. Maybe you got stung by, an insect. So the following day, I went to the doctor's. And the doctor, the first thing she said when she saw me, she said, that looks like some type of lymphoma. And
Wow.
I didn't know what was lymphoma, to be honest. And I remember that I was like in shock because she couldn't tell me exactly what it was. So she says, well, I want to send you next door to get some x-rays. I got the x-rays done. Then nothing showed. Then she said, I'm going to send you to get an ultrasound. Nothing showed. And then she said, after so many other blood tests and everything else that she did, she said to me, we need to get a biopsy. So I went to get the biopsy. And I remember telling the doctor, I said, well, I'm gonna get this done, doctor, but I have another mission trip to the Dominican Republic, to a couple of villages that we're gonna visit there. So, do the biopsy, but make sure that I need to go to this trip. I told him, I said, I need to go to this trip. And the doctor looked at me like, I'm not gonna tell you yes, because he knew that something was wrong. Um, and it was so, I was always intrigued by the fact that when he closed me up on the biopsy, he left some skin out, like in a way, like if I have to reopen her again, it was just a weird thing. It was just a
Yeah.
weird thing. And I knew something was wrong at that time. I knew something was wrong, but I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the Dominican Republic. I have things to do over there. I have boxes already waiting for me of things that we were, visiting places and things that needs that we wanted to supply. And I remember that I went to the Dominican Republic and I caught an infection
Oh,
on the on the
wow.
part that they did the biopsy, and I caught an infection, and it was really bad. My leg turned black. There was a lot of stuff coming out, and I got a little scared. I got a little scared because I didn't know what was happening. So I came back right after that trip, and I went straight to the emergency room in Milford. I live in Milford, by the way, Milford, Connecticut. And I went to the emergency room, and I remember that the doctor there said to me, "It's infected." And I still had the stitches. And she said, "I'm going to remove the stitches from the biopsy, but I want you to know that this is infected." So I took advantage of the moment and I said, "Do you have any results of my biopsy?" And she says, "I don't have the results, but even if I had the results, your primary doctor has to give you the results." So the following day, I went home. Following day, my doctor called me. I totally forgot I had to call the doctor for the results. The doctor called me and the doctor said, "Anna, I have some bad news for you." And he said, "You have cancer. You have, your leg is full of cancer cells and they are attached around the nerves, the muscles, um, the veins." I mean, when I really asked him to repeat again
Yeah.
because I couldn't process that. I was like, "Cancer?" I was like, "Are you sure, doctor, I have cancer?" It says, "Yeah, they're wrapped around all those organs on your leg. And you need to quickly go see a doctor that we're going to send you to." So he sent me to the doctor. I went to the doctors, the oncologist, and which has been a heavenly sent doctor. When I tell you this doctor has been through everything with me through this whole process, Dr. Freelander. And I remember that Dr. Freelander said to me, "Anna," he says, "I really don't know what to tell you, but to tell you that if you want to save your leg, you really have to start the treatments that we are going to offer you today." He said, "But the solution to the problem is amputation."
Wow.
And I looked at him. To me, that was like a big word for me,
Oh, sure.
amputation. Like I'm
Yeah.
losing a part of my body.
Yeah.
And then what's gonna happen after that? So I was like, I don't want to know nothing about amputation. And I remember feeling sad, feeling really sad and concerned. It seemed like my whole world stopped. I mean, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. But I always had my faith in God. I always believed God. And I said, "God, if this is what you have for me, hey, I take it. I take it. I've always been like that." And I remember the doctor says, "Well, if you want to save your leg, you got to start chemo and radiation." And chemo and radiation, it really, it really did play a really negative effect in my body, to be honest, more negative than the positive. And I went through the whole process of chemo and radiation. I caught 5 infections between the infection on my leg, and the infections that I had, because of the chemotherapy. It was pretty strong. I was taking 5 hours of chemo every day, 5 hours, and then I was taking 20 minutes of radiation, before I went to take my chemo every morning. So it was, I, I would say that it was doing more damage to my body than doing, good to my body. But it was the medicine that was going to kill those cancer cells,
Yeah.
and was going to shrink the tumor so they can operate the tumor. And I remember that I went through all of that, went through all the infections, and I went through the first surgery. When I go to the first surgery, July 31st of 2017, I remember that the doctor said, "If we go in and we're not able to take the everything out, we're gonna stop the surgery. We're gonna wake you up, and then we're gonna talk about amputation." That's what
Wow.
he said. And I remember, I mean, like today, I remember that when I woke up in the emergency room, what do you call that room? In the recovery room. I woke up in there, and the first thing I did was to touch to see if I had my leg.
Yeah.
And even though he said they were gonna wake me up, I said, well, I don't know. Anything could have happened, right? But I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I had my legs. I had my leg. And I was so excited. I was like, wow, I have my leg. They didn't amputate my leg. I wake up with a lot of pain. I went through that surgery, and on August 4th, they declared me cancer free. They said cancer is
Oh,
out of your body.
wow.
I was so excited. I
Sure.
celebrated cancer free. And then in 4 months, 6 months later, I go to see my doctor. And when I get my MRI, um, the doctor had to read the results. And I remember being in that room waiting and waiting and waiting. And I didn't see nobody coming in. And an hour passed and we were still waiting. And I told my husband, well, something must have happened. Maybe something happened to the doctor. Maybe they forgot I'm here. And I remember that another half hour went by and nothing happened. So I go to I pick, obviously if I see the doctor and I see a nurse and I said, did you think that the doctor forgot that I'm here? And she said, no, 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 he'll be there soon. They're
Mm,
just going over some things. Make the long story short, he comes in, his head down, and he says, Anna, I don't have good news for you.
mm.
He said, cancer is back.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, oh my God. So he says, cancer's back. And it's not one tumor now, it's two. So when he says that to me, I'm like, my mind, I'm like, I don't want him to go through no more chemo. I don't want to go through no more radiation. So I told him, I said, so what's going to happen now? And he says to me, Anna, the only thing that I can do is that I can schedule you for surgery, and you're going to have the surgery right away. He says, you're going to have surgery right away. So he scheduled me the following week. I had the surgery. They cut so many nerves
Mm,
and they cut so many muscles, veins. I mean, it was incredible everything that they did. And when I woke up, I was in so much pain. I
mm,
was in a lot of pain. And I remember um, talking to my physical therapist after that, because every time I had a surgery, because I couldn't balance myself, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to use a walker. I had to use crutches. And I remember that I asked my physical therapist, I said, I asked her, I said, why I'm in so much pain and I have this burning sensation, this burning feeling under my foot. She goes, it seems like you develop neuropathy.
mm.
So I kept going through physical therapy and, seeing so many other doctors. Make the long story short, in 2020, I've been through so many surgeries and I said, I don't think I'm not gonna be able to get rid of the pain. So I think amputation is the answer. I spoke to my doctor because my doctor said you still have nodules that are growing again,
Oh,
and there's a possibility that cancer can come back. And I remember that he said to me, Anna, have you considered again amputation? This was in the summer of 2020 during the pandemic time, and he said to me, he asked me, and I said, well, doctor, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll have to talk to my husband about it. And I know the answer because my husband and my children, they were like, Mom, get the amputation.
yeah.
You're gonna have a better quality of life.
Yeah.
You're gonna have much more, you know, freedom to do so much more because you're confined to the walker, the everything, the cane, the crutches. And I said, I'm gonna talk to my husband, but I'm also gonna talk to God. And if this is what I need to do, I'm gonna call you back and we're gonna set up the time, for the amputation. And I remember kneeling down on the side of my bed and I said, God, I am so tired. I'm tired of pain. I'm tired of feeling, sick. I was taking so much medication and So at times it made my stomach sick. And I remember kneeling down on the side of the bed and I said, if this is what you want, then, you know, let me know. And don't ask me how, because I can't even explain it. There was a lady in the beginning of that year, 2020, around February, March, that had said to me, she came to church. I never saw her again. Mike, I never saw the lady again.
Hmm.
She came to church on that day and she says to me, I had a vision with you last night. And she said, and the Lord was putting you a new leg. So
Wow.
from March to July, I'm thinking, how I'm gonna wake up one day, no pain, a new leg, no more stuff coming out of my leg, none of that, no more surgeries. When I'm kneeling down, that just comes to my mind. And I realized the new leg was coming in the form of an amputation, and I was gonna get a prosthetic leg.
Wow.
So I quickly got up and called my doctor, and I said, "Doctor, yes, let's go, let's move on with the amputation." I told him, I said, "I think I'm ready for that." And then October 4th came because there was a lot of stuff going on. So I had to wait from that moment all the way to the had a moment, a time is, for me to schedule the amputation. And I remember I got the amputation. And, to make the long story short, um, it's been a blessing. You know, I still have the pain because my brain tells
Yeah.
the nerves that,
Yeah.
that my leg is still there, but I'm able to process that, I think, a little bit different. And I'm training my mind that, that's not gonna go away, So I'm getting so used to it that I know at times I feel it really, really strong, but I kind of, like, you know, cross it out, like get out,
Sure.
leave, because I don't have time for you. And
Yeah, you got too
I'm
much
at,
going on.
I have too much going on. And I'm a pretty active person.
Yes.
I don't tell you that I'm completely, um, how can I say healed, because
Healed.
I
Yeah.
know that, but I've been able to embrace who I am now, in a way that I'm not afraid to, I love wearing shorts. I
Mm-hmm.
really do. I don't mind. In the beginning, you know, I was a little embarrassed, because people sometimes tend to look at you a little funny, a little, you know. But hey,
Yeah,
I got
I
used
know.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got used to it, and I just I'm loving life.
Good.
I do have my moments. I was diagnosed with PTSD last year. Um, I didn't even know what was that
Yeah.
either, but um, I got diagnosed with that, and I do things to try not to have things like that stop me,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to manage my emotions, and because I did went through a moment, and sometimes, tries to walk in, but I'm like, walk out because I don't have time for you. But I did got to a point that I got really depressed. I went to a lot of anxiety. I went through things that I didn't even think I would ever experience, but I went through those things, and I realized that it's part of the stuff your body goes through.
Yeah.
It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's just things that you go through, because in this body, this human body, you're gonna go through these things. And I've learned to embrace those things and
That's great.
recognize that, those things are part of life.
And they are part of life. It was a
Yeah.
really interesting story about that woman that you saw that one time. But there's another question I want to ask because
Hmm.
sometimes our lives are full of little moments. And at the very beginning of your story, I had some flashbacks myself. You're
Yeah.
putting on some boots. And I have some questions about those boots. Had you been wearing those boots a lot and they suddenly didn't?
Yes. So they were like my favorite ankle boots. It
Yeah.
was, it was actually, it was winter. It was cold. And I said, let me put them on. Because I mean, here in the where I live, in the winters are sometimes, sometimes you get good winters, but sometimes you got pretty, tough winters. And I remember it was cold. It was really cold. And I said, I'm gonna put boots on. Had I
Wow.
not done that, I would have probably never realized on time that I had that. I'm telling you, I never noticed that.
And that's what I mean. It's full. Life is full of those little moments of just putting on a pair of boots, and that alerted you. And that's why you're on the podcast. Like you're saying, if you didn't do that that day, who knows how things would have turned
Yeah.
out, and all the great things that you're doing right now. So,
Yeah.
and that to a certain extent, I'll say it that way. To a certain extent,
Uh-huh.
you were in on the choice, right? To get the amputation. That's still not an easy decision, regardless of what you're going through. How you talked quite a bit about the process, but looking back, obviously it was the right decision. How did you process that at the time? Because there's people that are going through that same journey right now.
Well, like I said, I never wanted to have the amputation. And when the moment came that I decided to do this, um, it was hard for me because I had spoken to someone before. They had like a buddy person. I remember asking him all these questions, and he said to me, in some cases, some people cannot wear prosthetic leg on their lower limb because, either they have a different cut where they don't cut, where they're
Hmm.
supposed to cut, and all these things that he said. And I was like, I really don't want to be in a wheelchair. Not there's anything wrong with that. There's
Sure.
nothing wrong with that. And I really feel for those people that are confined to a wheelchair. But I wanted to continue to live my life independently. Being independent, it's something that I didn't want anyone or anything to take that from me. I didn't want no one to take independency from me. And I remember that when I did that, I got my first leg on my son's birthday, which I think it was his 30th birthday, I believe. Yeah, his 30th birthday. And I got my leg on that day, and I was only able to wear that leg for about 5 weeks, maybe a month, 5 weeks. And then I had to switch to another place. I switched to another place, and I started the whole uh process all over again.
Yeah.
But even the process of fitting you in, it was difficult because my incision, due to all the radiated skin that I had, did not want to close. And
Mm.
every week it seemed like it was opening even more. And I remember my husband would have to get this long Q-tip and dig in there and clean the wound and make sure until it bleed. So he was able to wrap me up. And it took exactly 4 months to close.
That
So I
sounds
remember
painful.
it was painful. So they
Yep.
had to they had to fit me, with like that. And I remember that when that happened, that I got my first leg and that it didn't work out. And then I got my second leg. I was still walking like limping on one side. I had like I'm gonna be honest, I had like a swag.
Of course.
And I couldn't really walk, straight in the way I was supposed to walk. So that caused some pain, in my back, my lower back.
Sure.
And until then I finally got to the right leg that I'm still wearing. I'm still wearing that leg. And it's been a process.
Yeah.
You lose volume on your stump, and you gotta get new sockets.
Hmm.
So it's a constant change,
Yeah.
so you can feel more comfortable.
Why did
And I've
you?
been to a
Oh,
uh-huh.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've been to a lot of legs already.
And I was just curious as to why you made the change from one prosthetic organization to another. Was it insurance? Was it your self-advocacy going, you know what, maybe things aren't going right here? Was it something else?
Ah, it was a lot of things. I honestly, it was a lot of things involved, and the insurance played a big part on that. Because when you go to places that are not in network,
Yeah.
you spend more than when you go to a place that's
Sure.
in network with your insurance.
Yeah.
So that played a big part,
I,
on my decision moving to.
but it sounds like the decision was pretty good. At least
Yeah,
it seems like this newer leg or the newer journey got you legs that were able to fit better. Is that an accurate statement?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Eh,
So from that place, I had to move to another place because
Oh,
I had
wow.
a leg done and I spent a lot of money on that leg, and the leg wouldn't fit properly, and I kept bringing the leg back, and I did it took about 8 times, and still wasn't, they weren't doing it correctly. And I said, I'm spending so much money here in this place, and they cannot make this leg fit for me the right way. So I waited a while, and then I went to another place, which they're doing an amazing job now. They're doing a new socket for me with a new leg, with the pin instead of instead of the one I
Suction.
have now is the suction is
Yep.
different. It's way different.
Yep.
And I had to wear a lot of socks. There was a time I was wearing 17 socks, 17 ply socks.
Wow.
And in the summer, the month of August, you can imagine it's pretty hot. Wearing all
Hot,
of that underneath, I was like,
hot and
no, not
humid
for
at that
hot and
part of town,
humid.
that part
Yeah.
of the country, I should say.
So yeah, so it's working now. It's working now for me.
But I think
You
that's
know,
part of the. I like the lesson, or at least the story that I get out of that is, continue to go back. I mean, if you have problems with your prosthetic, go back
yes,
until it's right. You just can't accept
yes.
anything less for your own life. Is that something you agree with?
Absolutely. I totally agree. I wish I kept pursuing and pursuing. I did, and I went 8 times, and this is the insurance plays a part, but then the person is responsible, the
Yeah.
patient is responsible to pay the rest. And to me, I was like, no. So if they don't do the right job, yes, go back and make sure they get it right. Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the mental aspects of it because you had hit on something that I go through and most of us go
Hmm.
through. Whenever we go
Hmm.
to, I don't know, let's say a supermarket or wherever you're going to
Yeah.
go, you're probably going to be the only one like you. And you had already kind of hit on it. You're walking around with shorts and you have your prosthetic on. What is it
Right.
like? What is the journey to get to the point where you just start to go, yeah, hey, I'm me? Because at first, we're all stared at, and that's the truth. And some of us don't like it, some of us do, and there's no right or
Yeah.
wrong answer to that. How did you get to the point where you're at now?
Well, I learned to embrace who I am now. I know I'm differently able. I remember my granddaughter said to me, she called me one day. This is so cute. She lives in Florida. And she says, Grandma, I just have a question for you. And she's very proper speaking, Annabelle. And she says, Grandma, she says, do you know exactly when you're going to grow your leg back? And I said, sweetie, my leg is never going to grow back. And, I went on to explain things to her. But when you learn to embrace who you are, it doesn't matter the way people look at you. I learned to be me. This is me. I embrace who I am. I used to cover my leg. Now I don't cover my leg unless it's cold outside. And I can wear the sleeve on the other side of my leg. This is me. And I love, to be honest, I love who I am. So I go in shorts, and sometimes kids they stop me and they ask me, and and the parents are like, "Oh, well, don't be rude, don't be." I say, "No, let them ask me," and I answer, and and it helps me connect with other people, because if I have long pants on, they don't know I'm an amputee, but when they see me in shorts, a lot of amputees, they they kind of want to establish a conversation. So do I. I love to talk, so I go to them, and we just talk. And sometimes they talk about what happened to them. I talk about my experience, what happened to me, and it's a way to connect. I love connecting with these people. These people. I go to a place where Joy works. It's called Gaylor Rehab Hospital, and they have on the second floor what's called Adaptive Sports. So
Hmm.
I'm involved there in golf, in archery, in bocce. I did kayak not too long ago, and I go there, and sometimes I do not want to leave, because I am able to connect with people that have similar situations
Yeah.
to my situation, and I just love it. I just love being there. When it's time to leave, I'm like, oh, I know, and there's another group coming, so I can't stay there. So, but I love being there. I just love being there, and so you can connect with people when they see your struggles and they see what you're going through. You can connect with them. And now it's a daily battle, mentally speaking, because you got to get up every morning and tell yourself today is going to be a good day. Today is going to be better than yesterday. My husband used to tell me all the time, tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday. And I tell myself today, Today is gonna be better than yesterday. When I get up every morning, and I'm on a run all day long, and I can't wait for the summer so I can go running with my running blade. And I just you can't. I mean, life goes on,
Life
and you
goes
only
on.
live you live only once. So you have to live your life right. Yeah.
I love the way you said that. And I know you've done something else. You've written a book, and I want to talk about
Yes.
that. But first, we're going to hear from our sponsor. This episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast is brought to you by Discount Tire and America's Tire. And this one means a lot to me because I spent 30 years with that organization. I worked 5 years in the stores and then re-educated myself and worked in their corporate office for 25 years. And I ran vital parts of the organization like e-business, digital marketing, and even our customer experience initiatives. If you're part of the limb loss community and or part of the general disabled community, you know how difficult it can be to find meaningful employment. Discount Tire gave me a chance, so I can't thank them enough. They're sponsoring this episode and other episodes so the voices of the disabled community and the limb loss community are amplified through this podcast. But let me tell you some other things, because you're probably a consumer of tires. If you have a car, which most of you do, you're a consumer of tires. So let me tell you some of the great things that Discount Tire offers. They have free air checks, free tire safety inspections, free flat repairs. If your tire's repairable, they will repair it for free. You know why I know that? I've done thousands of those repairs myself. They will inspect your TPMS sensors. If you buy wiper blades from Discount Tire, they're going to install it for you, no charge. And of course, every tire purchase comes with free rotations, free balancing, and winter changeovers for the life of the tire. And if you're not certain about what kind of tire you need, jump online. Go to America's Tire or discounttire.com. They have Treadwell, which is the online buying guide where you can shop with confidence, and it provides transparent, unbiased tire data. And you will be able to make the best decision for you. You want to save a little time? Buy and book online. So Discount Tire and America's Tire, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. And everyone that's listening, do me a favor. When you need tires, go to americastire.com or discounttire.com. Anna, thank you so much for being on. And like I said, you have come out with a book. I said it before we went on break. It's called Still Standing, an amputee story of hope. What
Yes.
prompted you to do the book, and where can people get it?
Well, they can get it on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes and Nobles. I'm on Facebook as Ana Reyes dash Franco. Franco's my maiden name. And I'm also on Instagram. I believe the same name on Instagram. So they can go to either Walmart or Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, and they can get the book there. Actually, this is the book that I did not want it to write. I remember that back in 2017, I'll have people saying, "Oh, why don't you write your story?" And in my mind, I didn't want to be rude, but I was like, time for that. And then 2018 came and the same thing, and 2019 came, and I was at a diner. I remember I was at a diner, and this lady approached me. She kept looking at me. So now I was a school teacher in New Haven. I was in West Haven, few minutes from there. I have sisters that are teachers also still in the system in the New Haven public schools. So I'm like, maybe we look so similar, so alike. I said, well, maybe she's confusing me with one of my sisters. But she kept looking at me, and every time I look, she's looking at me, and I try to, change my look, my size someplace else. But I remember that she came over to the table. We were having breakfast with some friends, and she said to me, "Did you allow me to give you a word?" And everything it's written on the book, the way I'm gonna paraphrase what she said to me.
Hmm.
And she says to me, the Lord is telling me for you to, the Lord is asking me to tell you that you have to write your story because
Wow.
this is not for you. And she says, and he's telling me to tell you not to be selfish because the book is not for you. It's for all the people that, all the people that are that are dealing with similar situations
Yeah.
and that are going to be dealing with the same thing you're dealing with. And I remember when we left that diner, I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I said, I don't have time to write a book. I have so many things to do. And I remember that was a Monday. And on a Saturday, they asked me to go bring a conference all the way in New Jersey. I think it was some part in New Jersey. I don't remember. And the lady, after I was done with my conference, a lady out of the blue, I don't know. I really, if I see the lady, if I bump into the lady and she tells me, I will be like, I don't know who you are because I don't remember. I don't remember who she was. And she came to me and she says, you need to write a book. And she said, you need to tell about your story. I left. And when she said that, I was like, well, thank you so much. Thank you. You know, thank you. I know I was told this before, but thank you so much. But I was in my mind, I'm like, crazy. I'm not doing this. Anyways, a couple of weeks went by and my husband invited this speaker to the church, this preacher to the church. And I don't know. I was my first time seeing the guy. I never know I was sitting there. And the guy introduced himself and then he points to me and he says, I see a book in you and you need to write your story. I never seen the guy before. I still didn't do anything, any of that. So I went home. I forgot about it. I went home, but I wrote what he said. I wrote everything he said to me. I wrote it and I said, okay. I went home 2009, that was 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 went by, and 2023 comes, and I'm having breakfast with a family from my church, and the lady says, "Hey, the-" they call me pastor. And my husband's the pastor. I'm not a pastor. He's the pastor, but she's from Nigeria. She goes, Pastor, when are you going to start writing that book? And I
Wow.
looked at her and I said, not today. But I was so convicted because I felt like I was being selfish. So because I have been told already, this is not for me. This is not for me. This is for all the people. This is not for me. And I remember that I came home and I grabbed this big notebook that I had and I started writing. I started writing and I kept writing and I couldn't stop writing. I couldn't stop writing. And then I remember things that happened that I was supposed to put before. And so I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to start writing on my computer, on my laptop. And I started writing on my laptop. It was July 31st of 2023. And I finished the draft November 17th of 2023.
Wow, that's quick. That's amazing. It just came right out of you, huh?
I couldn't
That's
believe it.
amazing.
I couldn't believe it. I said, so I said, I'm going to call this company that somebody has spoken to me about, a friend of mine's. And I called him and quickly he says, send me the draft. And when he read it, he says, Anna, you have a story here, he said. And I think it's going to be great. And then we started the whole process. You know, you have to edit things, you have to move things from one chapter to another chapter. And it has been published. So, I'm very humble
Oh
to
yeah.
say that these have been published because this is something I didn't want to do. But I really consider the fact that I know this wasn't for me. This was for other people. And I've seen a lot of people, they text me, they message me, they put it on Facebook that
They
they purchased the book.
yes. Yes, I've seen that.
And I said, if it's a blessing for someone else, hey, I don't mind. And I want to make this statement real quick. Um, there was one time that I was battling with a lot of things in my mind. I never questioned God as to why what this happened because things happen in life. We all go through things. I always think about the kids out they're born sick, they're born with deformities and stuff like that. And I always say older people are in worse conditions than me. I'm not going through anything, I always say, compared to so many other people.
Yeah.
And I remember that I said, God, if you allow me to go through this, to be a blessing to someone else, then I'm happy with that. Then I'm happy with that. Then I don't mind the pain that I have to go through every day. I don't mind the challenges that I have to endure. I don't mind the trials that my body has to go through and the suffering. If you allow me to go through this just to be an encouragement to one person, say, I'm happy with that.
That's a great story. And again, I want to say the name of it, Still Standing, An Amputee Story of Hope. It's available on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes& and Noble. And that was very quick. I've always said this, you two-handed people can type very fast, apparently. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to type that fast, that's for sure. As you look forward, what is something that you didn't know about being an amputee that you now know as an amputee?
Um, well, I did not know the challenges that we have to go through when it comes to um the prosthetic legs, how
Yeah.
often you have to change them. You have to care for your limb, you have to care for your skin. I do get a lot. Like yesterday, we were traveling from El Salvador, and my skin was completely like a baby rash all the way around from the knee sleeve that that I wear. And these are challenges that you don't think, I mean, you don't, a normal person don't go through, but adjusting your leg, sometimes um when your limb loses volume, you have to change your socket. And these are expenses that they're not on on your budget. They're not on your, on your plans. And it affects a lot of things. It affects, financial, mental, sometimes emotionally, because sometimes I put on my leg one day and it hurts. It bothers me. It brings discomfort. Some of the days I'm like nothing happened. So it's like a day-to-day uh thing that you gotta kind of adjust to, you know? Yeah.
And it seems like you're very well adjusted to it now, doing great
Yeah.
things for people, including your book.
Yeah.
As you look forward in what everything you got going, because I know you travel a lot. You already talked about it. You go on
Yeah.
missions to help people all over the world.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
looking forward to do in your life as you move forward?
Well, I want to continue to do mission trips. I want to continue to, I have one coming up in the month of May. I'm going to Honduras. Um, and I want to be able to, I would love to create a support group with amputees, with people that are going through PTSD, people that are going through anxiety and depression, um, people that are just having emotional roller coasters and battles and things that sometimes people see as abnormal, but they're part of life. So they're so normal. They're part of life. If I didn't go through the things that I've been through, I don't think I would have been able to relate to people the way I'm able to relate to people now, and be so compassionate to people's needs and how they feel and how they everything they go through. It's just not an easy being an amputee. It's not an easy thing, whether it's an arm, a leg, whatever it is, it's just not an easy thing. It's a daily battle that it starts here, and you just gotta say, not today. That's what I say, not today. I don't have time for you today. I get up and I'm on the go every day.
Anna, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Certainly joy over at Gaylor. I mean, just getting us together. Your story is fantastic. Like I said, I'd love to have you on in a year, 6 months, to give us an update of where
Absolutely.
you're at in your journey. But thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'll look forward to do another podcast in the future with you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. I have an ask for everyone that got to this point of the podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. The reason is simple. These stories need to be shared. It would help it to get out there to the people that really need to hear these stories.